The Circuit de Nevers in the Loire Valley of central France is the site of round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship for 2002. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Varsha along with David Hobbs, continuing with our review of the 2002 Formula 3000 Championship in preparation for live or same-day coverage of the championship here on Speed Channel in 2003. A beautiful day in Nevers, once again on a Formula One Grand Prix weekend. The weather could not be better. The track is not well loved, but it is smooth, David, and very, very fast. As you take a look at Sebastian Bourdais on the front row, as he has been virtually all season long, with this man, Thomas Enge of the Nordic team and the Czech Republic. A look at the circuit.
Well, there you see, Bob, there's an awful lot of corners jammed into 2.64 miles. Very little elevation change, none at all, really. The only real overtaking spot is down in the bottom left-hand corner of the picture there, turn 5, Adelaide hairpin. Very, very tight hairpin. Everywhere else, overtaking is stymied by the approach to the corners, which always has a little subtle curve in it somewhere. You just might squeeze down somebody into 14, but you have to be pretty brave to get away with it. The first corners there, Grand Cours and Estriel, very, very fast turns.
I say the track is not loved as you see the field rolling off on its reconnaissance lap. This track was a successor to the legendary Paul Ricard circuit in extreme southern France, right along the Gold Coast and the Mediterranean. Although the track is basically fine, it suffers a bit by comparison in terms of its location, not nearly as romantic. Here's a look at the starting grid. Thomas Enge picks up his third pole of the year to the 5 for the man who shares the front row with him, Sebastian Bourdais, the series leader by 9 points coming in. Our winner in Spain, Giorgio Pantano in the Coloni, starts on row 2 next to Mario Haberfeld of Brazil. Brazilians Ricardo Sperafico and Antonio Pizzonia, both with the Petrobras Junior team, will start on row 3. On row 4, Italian Enrico Toccacello and Portuguese driver Tiago Monteiro, teammate at the Supernova team to Sebastian Bourdais. As you take a look down the rest of the grid, these cars are all evenly matched using the same Lola chassis, the same Zytec V8 engines making about 460 horsepower, and the same spec Avon Racing slicks. There are severe testing restrictions in the F3000 Championship, and because they run on Grand Prix weekends, the drivers get very little practice time and very short qualifying sessions. So this is a series in which a driver's skills, not only in terms of racecraft, but car setup, are tested to the absolute limit. Front row making its way around now. Good crowd on hand after Formula One qualifying to watch the future stars of Grand Prix racing in the Formula 3000 Championship. Now you notice the name Ted Bjork of Sweden. He is in for young Australian Ryan Briscoe, who was a test driver for Toyota's Formula One team, and he has been withdrawn from that team. It should be said Briscoe has not done well with the defending team champions from Nordic Racing, and so the Swede Bjork is now in.
Yeah, Nordic Racing having a terrible year compared to some of the other years they've had in Formula 3000.
Oh, now there's Alex Sperafico in one of the European Minardis, and look at the debris on the racetrack. And there is Bjork in the #1 car going by with a severely deranged rear wing. I can't believe they'll be able to start this race with all that debris on the track.
Boy, oh boy, now that's hard to do on the pace lap. That really, really takes a lot of doing to run into each other on the parade lap. And you see Thomas Enge waiting for the signal to go. He obviously doesn't know the drama's happened behind him yet.
Green flag at the back of the field. We may get underway. No, lights indicate an aborted start. No real surprise there. Getting back to what you were saying, David, here's another look. Cars swinging back and forth across the road. And look at someone rolling at the back. That's Sperafico.
Alex Sperafico there rolls the car right round through a 360-degree, comes back down on the wheels again. He must have been nudged by his row mate, Ted Bork, who was... Oh, look at it there. Good Lord.
Well, there must have been some rubber-to-rubber contact. And the Minardi is simply torn to bits.
Jeepers, I tell you, just the dynamics of racing cars, you know, unbelievable to have a roll like that at that speed. Just think what happens if they're doing like 4 times as fast as that in the race.
Well, there's Enga, visor up, engine silent, as the track crews go to work on this just devastated Lola chassis.
Well, the number 16 machine will actually still roll. Unbelievable. Look, every wheel's bent. Wing all hanging. I mean,
we don't have a better look at what happened, but it appears that somehow Bjork and Sperafico got together as they were weaving back and forth across the track to warm their tires.
of course, these cars, as you can see from that picture there, using slick tires, unlike the Formula 1 cars, of course, which use treaded tires. These are control tire, all built by Avon, fairly hard. There's the Minardi crew wondering what on earth happened to their driver.
And the body language says it all. He must have come back over the other guy's rear wheels and wound up barrel rolling down the road. Well, not the kind of thing, I would imagine, that leads to a long and happy future in motorsports. There is Bjork's car. There's Bjork standing in the driving suit. I met him a couple of years ago at the Rolex 24-hour sports car race at Daytona Beach, Florida. And it looks like Sperafico came up from behind.
Yeah, and leapt over the back of Bjork's car.
He must have been looking down in the cockpit or something, not watching where he was going. Here's the mechanic's interpretation of things. What it must do to the mind of a mechanic to find out your car has not come around, and here is why.
Boy, oh boy, I didn't come around the parade lap. I mean, it's bad enough when they don't come to the finish of the race.
There's Bjork's damaged Nordic Racing Lola. We'll take a break and return, hopefully, for the start of round 8 of the Formula 3000 Championship. Welcome back to Magny Cours in France on the second attempt to start round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship. After a collision aborted the first attempt, we're down to 18 cars, and it appears we will get the race underway. Thomas Enge in red and Sebastian Bourdais, the points leader, on the front row. Lights are out. Good launch from the front row.
Well, Thomas Enge there made a very good launch, but then trying to do a Michael Schumacher, used up too much track trying to shut down Sebastian Bourdais and lost out. Bourdais snatching the lead as they go through those first two turns. A couple of cars side by side going through Estoril there. Not that healthy. Down the long run down to the Adelaide hairpin. Bourdais moving to the inside to try and block Enge right up his wing there. Side by side into the hairpin.
Bourdais has
got the inside line.
See if Enge can launch off the turn and go side by side with him again. It appears they will.
Ooh,
Mario Haberfeld in the white Astromega Lola slots into third, watching all this ahead of him. Oh, Bourdais goes off. Defending his line, and Enge will get the advantage.
Enge, this is the 180. They call this one 180. Very novel name for a 180-degree hairpin, but Enge pulls it off. That was some serious side-by-side motoring there.
On board with Sebastian Bourdais, the man ahead of him is his title rival. With just 5 races to go in the championship, Enge trails Bourdais by 9 points coming into the weekend. Enge's also riding the momentum of a victory in the last round of the championship at Silverstone in England.
Boy, that was a pretty hairy first half a lap there. I mean, those guys are doing some serious side-by-side driving through that turn 6 and 7, which are very nasty little kink. But Enge seems to pull away a little bit now, and he's coming under pressure. Bourdais is coming under pressure now from Mario Haberfeld in the Astromega car.
Well, look how fast that corner is, or a series of 2 corners, actually. Giorgio Pantano, winner in Barcelona, Spain earlier this season, slots into 4th. Enrico Toccacello, his teammate with the Coloni outfit, is just behind him.
Reisacher's got between the Sperafico brothers. Haberfeld really right on the tail now of Sebastian Bourdais.
See the name D. Hill. That's Derek Hill, son of 1961 Formula 1 world champion Phil Hill of the United States, who made a late return to Formula 3000 this year. Just a couple of races under his belt. He's in the Durango car, that sky blue car running toward the back.
Pantano and Toccacello there, running in 4th and 5th. Oh, look, yeah, really wailing there into that terrific little corner there called Imola. It's a The only little bit of elevation change, they dug out a bit of a dip to give some elevation change to go through that sort of very fast left-right.
Through Lycée, the final corner. Pit entry on the driver's left. Onto the start-finish straightaway. And as usual, a variety of racing lines being used here.
Well, the two Sperafico brothers have managed to drop Patrick Freisacker, who's right behind them again now. So they're back dueling it out there in the Petrobras cars, right behind Toccocello, in fact.
35 laps of racing, no pit stops scheduled. Purely a sprint format.
Well, if you have a pit stop in one of these races, you're done for. Beautiful day here in France. You can see the blue sky, and of course, being right into central France here, it gets awfully warm here. There's no doubt about it. Strong sunshine, a long way from the coast, so no warming breezes, so cooling breezes, so it does get hot here.
Checking the gaps through the top 6 points paying position. We work by the Formula One World Championship point system. 10 points for a victory, 6 for second, then 4, 3, 2, and 1 down through 6th place.
Thomas Enger seems to have established a nice little cushion, which is maintaining just about the same distance between himself and Sebastian Bourdais. Bourdais under pressure from Mario Haberfeld, who really can't relax because right behind him is Giorgio Pantana, the winner in Spain earlier on this year.
As Haberfeld, part of an unprecedented 1-2-3-4 sweep for Brazilian drivers in the season opener at Interlagos in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Interesting camera work there. Look at Haberfeld's line and how it differs from Bourdais.
All swinging out to take this very wide line into this first left-hander. The grand curve, it is very, very fast and leads right into the very fast Estoril right-hander. You can see the transition there from left to right. Estoril is a very important corner to get right, of course, because you really want to be on the tail of somebody as you get down to the Adelaide hairpin about another half a mile further on. The downside of it is, of course, is they're trying to stay under each other's wings going through Estoril. Oh,
Haberfeld right up behind Bourdais.
But, of course, he lost momentum coming out, which is really what happened to Bourdais on the very opening lap. He went in quicker than Enger, and he never quite recovered from that. It gave Enger the time to catch up with him as they exited the corner, and of course they finally caught Bourdais right down here at the 180.
Good look at Haberfeld. Now we seem to be seeing the same phenomenon we saw in the last race at Silverstone. Enger rockets away from pole, and Bourdais just doesn't seem to be able to come to terms with him. But it's very early in the race. We'll be back. Welcome back to France in round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship. Bob Varsha and David Hobbs with you here on Speed Channel. This series will come to you live or same day beginning in 2003 on the Formula One Grand Prix weekends.
This is a terrific battle here for 5th. This is Enrico Toccocello really being hounded here by Antonio Pizzoni and Riccardo Sperafico in the Petrobras cars, and Patrick Freisacker in the Red Bull car just behind them. So this is a pretty intense battle for 5th and 6th, and of course it's so important. It doesn't look like battling for 1st and 2nd, but it means a point or 2.
Those 1st and 2nd corners a lot tighter than they look on the track maps. And then into that long right-hander, accelerating all the way through Estoril, and then this long backstretch through the kink known as Gulf, down to the Adelaide hairpin, named for the previous site of the Formula One Australian Grand Prix.
And as you can see, it is a hairpin in the classic. It is a real hairpin. Back to the leading quartet. Here comes Toccocello, followed closely by Pizzonia.
Top 4 have broken away slightly.
There's Sperafico in his team car. Oh, Pizzonia, he's been quick through this 180 all the time. He's been catching up with Toccocello there. That's where he's going to try and make his move. Toccocello looks quick coming out the corner, though. Heading down to the Imola chicane, this right, left, swoop through that little dip there. As you can see, the road moves an awful lot here. The drivers never really get a chance to set the guy up to have an overtaking shot, which is great to watch, and it's good fun to drive, but it just makes overtaking very frustrating.
Through the chicane, then Lycée, under the flag stand. Unique position of that flag stand. We've talked about it on the Formula One shows here on Speed Channel before. Right off the corner. Leads to a lot of very aggressive corner entry.
Especially on the last lap. Yeah.
Now the blast down to the hairpin. Enga leading Bourdais. Bourdais playing an interesting game here. He leads by 9 points in the championship. He's been the dominant driver thus far this year with 3 victories at Imola, Monaco, and the Nürburgring. 5 pole positions. But if he thinks he can play it conservative against Enga, he may be making a mistake. 3 poles for the Czech driver and 2 wins in Austria and Britain.
Yeah, there's the... Oh, locking up big time there, going very wide into 180. That'll give Bourdais a chance to, yeah, almost got alongside him there, but not quite enough to be able to pull it off. But Enga obviously under a lot more pressure than it seems from here, because Bourdais has caught him up in the last couple of laps. He had about a 2-second lead, now down to, well, obviously you can see virtually nothing.
We have seen earlier this season that these Spec Avon radials will go off. They can be abused beyond the point of usability. Well, it's a little early in this race for that.
That's one of the things with having a hard compound, is the driver tends to think it's bulletproof, and of course it's not. And as we've seen the way the sun's shining, it is very, very warm there, and the track temperature is extremely high.
Meanwhile, Antonio Pizzonia has gotten by Enrico Tocacello for 5th. In fact, Ricardo Sperafico, Pizzonia's teammate, has gotten by as well. So Tocacello in the Coloni is out of the top 6. There you see the standings. We'll be back in just a moment to France. Welcome back to round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship here on Speed Channel. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs. We have a great battle up front between the top 2 drivers in the championship. Thomas Enga in the red and white car. Ooh, this man, Sebastian Bourdais, getting all kinds of squirrely in the chicane.
This is that Lycée hairpin. Onto the front straight, both using all the track they possibly can. Right. Haberfeld there, spinning in the background as they came out of Lycée.
Out of a podium position. The veteran in his 4th year in Formula 3000. Meanwhile, this is a battle for 13th down in the Adelaide hairpin. That was Zolt Baumgartner in the red car, Alex Mueller, and Derek Hill. Back to the front again.
That was all pretty hairy for 13th spot, wasn't it? On board now is Sebastian Bourdais. These 2 guys having a terrific battle for the lead of the race and, of course, the lead of the championship.
2 very experienced drivers. Bourdais with a couple of years in Formula 3000 and lots of sports car experience. One of the great French prospects in open-wheeled racing. Enga, for his part, already has Formula 1 experience. A handful of starts for Alain Prost's now defunct Prost Grand Prix team last year.
There you see that Giorgio Pantano got past Haberfeld in that spin, but that was the only person that got past him, so he was pretty lucky. You see Tocacello back in 7th. Freisacker is down to 8th.
That engine just doesn't sound right compared to what we've seen earlier in the year. It sounds like there may be an exhaust problem or something. Very flatulent sound.
They sound a bit flat compared to those Formula 1, because 9,000 RPM rev limit on these cars.
Continued skirmishing back there in 13th. Mueller, Baumgartner, Derek Hill, and Nicholas Chiesa, the black PSM Racing Line entry, a new team in Formula 3000. Look at this. Down to the chicane.
What a battle.
Oh, Chiesa up the inside of Hill, locking him up. Hill, oh, a dangerous place to get flipped.
Good Lord.
Team's looking on, which is a lot considering that the wreck is just to their right.
Here's Nicholas Chiesa, who was involved in that accident. I mean, he just went down the inside of Derek Hill there. Just hadn't got a prayer of getting by going into Lycée hairpin there. And, of course, the trouble with open-wheel cars is the wheels touched and it just nudged Derek's car and just flipped it over just like a coin. Luckily, he didn't hit those that tyre wall head-on. When I mean head-on, I mean head-on. Here you see it again. Just catches his left front on Derek's right rear, and of course Derek back bottom of the car into the tyre rail, tyre barrier, And then, of course, he climbs out, which is always a bit fraught. Just in that. Here we see it again from another angle.
I think the pace, yeah, the safety car is coming out
Just
to control the race.
boy, oh boy. And that's a very, very slow corner. It just shows how, again, the dynamics of these cars. I mean,
as we saw earlier in the first attempt to start this race when we had the accident on the parade lap.
these are not easy cars to turn over. I mean, they've got a terrifically low center of gravity. There you see that left front, right rear, whoop, up and over the right front, flips it over, and then just does this quick roll here. Boom, into the tire barrier, bottom side up, luckily, or bottom side down, leaving poor old Derek to struggle out of this nasty little gap. I'd have been a bit nervous getting out of there in case the thing rolled over again.
Limber fellow.
Whew. Well, that's Bobby now.
Chiesa got up on the curbing on the right. I think that contributed, as you see the reaction of the PSM team. This is literally happening. They're looking at a big screen, but it's just beyond the pit entrance, just below the flag stand. Another look as American Derek Hill gets over on his head.
There's your flag stand right there. I mean, right, the bloke,
the flag
marshal standing on the stand looking very nervous at that lot.
Actually, the car seems surprisingly undamaged. Obviously, it's not going anywhere, however, so 2 more cars out of the race. We'll take a break while the track cleanup continues and be back with more Formula 3000. Welcome back to Magny Cours in central France. Lights out on the safety car. We're ready to go racing again in round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship for 2002. After wheel-to-wheel contact between Nicholas Chiesa and Derek Hill of the United States, flipped Hill over and crippled Chiesa's car. Everyone's fine, but we now have 4 cars out of the race. All 4 going out in collisions at very slow speeds. So when we're up around 160 miles an hour, these guys are all fine. It's the slow speeds that have been causing the problems.
Slow speeds that seem to be gaining, but I tell you what now, after a couple of laps behind that safety car, the tires pick up a lot of stuff off the track. They get very, they don't work too well for a couple of laps, so these guys are going to be really careful until they get these tires back up to temperature. From 3rd, 4th, and 5th here, we don't know what I mean. Here goes Haberfeld down the inside of Pantano. Haberfeld, remember, was leading Pantano, had that spin at the Lycée hairpin just before the incident with Derek Hill, and Chiesa didn't pull it off that time. Back on board with Bourdais. This is that 6 and 7. Little chicane that comes up before this 180 degree. If they'd have had it straight down to the 180 here, I think we'd have seen more overtaking here. Bourdais there, running wide. He's got a bit of understeer there. That's the tyres nowhere near up to temperature yet, or top grip. So the guy's really skating around on this opening lap. Enger doing a really good job as he leads away there. Actually have to shift gear on these cars. I know it's a sequential change. We actually have to take your hand off the wheel and touch the gear lever, God forbid, unlike the fully automatic Formula 1 cars. Into the Lycée hairpin. The chicane first, then the hairpin, where we scene of the crime of just a few moments ago. Brought the pace car out. So that's a lap under their belts, so the old tyres will be coming somewhere up to temperature now.
It's the Supernova pits, watching Sebastian Bourdais.
That's David Sears, son of gentleman Jack Sears, who was a big-time sedan car racer in my day.
David Sears, quite the
gentleman farmer from East Anglia.
Family with a long history in motorsports. David Sears has been fielding teams in various open-wheel series for quite a long time.
David did a bit of racing himself, and like Christian Horner, who runs the Arden team, decided that really his talents would be better spent running teams than running races or driving races. So David Sears has been a team manager now, a team owner for a long time. Pretty successful too.
Approaching the halfway mark in this 35-lap race, Tomas Enger has dominated from pole position. Plunging down through that Imola dip. Distinctive engine note from these cars, as you mentioned, David. Nothing at 10,000 RPM wouldn't fix.
No, right. Or even 10, 11, 12, or if you want to get to Formula 1, you know, 19,000 with the BMW at Monza this year in qualifying. 19,050 RPM down the front straight at Monza. But these guys are limited to 9, so that you couldn't do more than 9 if you wanted to.
An interesting story from a Toyota representative. There are a lot of technological bridges between these cars, the Formula One machinery, and the Champ cars that Lola builds, including the gearbox, which is basically an evolution of the successful Champ car unit, 6-speed sequential. Of course, in the Champ cars, they actually shift with a manual lever and not the paddles of the Formula One machinery. But this Toyota source told me that they took their Champ car motor, mind you, steel valve springs, and put it on the dyno and revved it to over 18,000 for a race distance, higher than they revved their Formula One motors, which use the pneumatic valve trains.
Well, that takes some doing. Now here we see Pizzonia now giving Haberfeld a hard time, who slipped back from Pantano a little bit, coming under pressure now from Pizzonia.
Field still pretty tightly bunched. We see the top 6. We'll take a break and return to Magny Cours in France in just a moment. Welcome back. Bob Varsha and David Hobbs with you for round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship for 2002 from the Circuit de Nevers in central France.
This is the battle for 13th. Zolt Baumgartner there being followed closely by Alex Müller and Minardi and Tony Schmidt.
Here's how Baumgartner from Hungary got ahead of Müller down in the Adelaide hairpin. And it appears he's drawing away just a little bit. Meanwhile, back up front, Thomas Enga appears to be falling into the clutches of second-place Sebastian Bourdais. There's turns 1 and 2, basically taken in one long arc, and then the long Estoril right-hander. Oh, and Bourdais definitely losing ground there.
Well, that was interesting there, you know, when he was not quite behind the car of Enga, he was going as quick. As soon as he dropped right back under the slipstream there, he lost a little bit of downforce on the front. The car washed out wide, and look what's happened now. Giorgio Pantano is right with him, then Haberfeld, then Pizzonia, then Riccardo Sperafico in his team car. So this front 6 cars here having a terrific battle. It looked like Sebastian Bourdais might be able to snatch that first place back there, but he lost ground badly going through Estoril and out of Estoril down to the hairpin.
David Sears looking on. Pantano looking very racy behind. 3 wins this year for Bourdais, 2 for that man, Thomas Enga, and Pantano with a win. The only other winner in the series, Rodrigo Sperafico, won the season opener, is running well back in the field, out of the points right now.
Through that nasty little chicane that leads to the Lycée hairpin.
Bourdais sits
running
well up
wide
in the car. Bourdais sits higher in the car than does Enga, a taller man. So he runs the risk of his helmet blocking the air intake. Santiago Montero, Rob Nguyen in the white Astromega car, teammate to Mario Haberfeld, and Ricardo Mauricio, teammate to Patrick Freisacher with the Red Bull team.
As you can see, this is a furious battle too, even though it is only for 10th spot. But at this stage in the race, you've just got to keep hammering on for all you're worth, because you never know what's going to happen in front of you, and suddenly you find yourself in a points-paying position. Down to the hairpin, all closing up, Constantino-like. You always feel when you go into hairpin situations like that you really caught the guy up, but of course as soon as you accelerate out, the gap soon comes back, because the gap is always constant pretty much, depending on the time. So if you're a quarter of a second behind it, 20 mile an hour is not much. If you're a quarter of a second, whoa, Nguyen locking up there into that 180 degree. Tricky approach there. You come through that chicane first, that very fast sweeping right and left-hander, then you sweep left into the 180 degrees. So a lot of weight transfers gone on, and Nguyen lost a bit of ground there, now under big pressure.
From Mauricio.
In the Red Bull car. Good looking paint job, that Red Bull.
And we see it all over the world of motorsports these days, including their efforts to find the next young American Formula One driver.
You of course, in the front of this group is the other Red Bull car of Patrick Freisacker. There's Freisacker.
You went under serious pressure now. The young Vietnamese-Australian driver.
Oh, look at Bourdais now.
Oh,
Right up with Enger.
this is for the lead.
Goes to the outside. A bit of a difficult pass here. But he just might be able to pick up on the way out.
That's what he's trying.
That's what he's trying to do, but no, Thomas Enger's having none of it.
A little tactical drift there by the race leader,
I'd
putting
say
Bourdais
so.
up on the curbs.
Bourdais had the right idea, went in wide, made the curve wider.
Ooh, I think Bourdais was surprised there, the way he closed up on Enga under braking.
Again, locking up that left front, going to the 180 degree, the left-hander there. Taking all the way. There's David Sears giving a wry smile as his driver locks up and loses the opportunity again. But he seems to be slightly quicker of the two cars at the moment. But of course, getting around Enger's not going to be easy at all.
This is heading down to the chicane. Bourdais trying hard. Just doesn't seem to have the handling right.
Well, of course, don't forget Sébastien Bourdais going to be trying particularly hard here in front of this pretty large crowd on hand, being obviously a Frenchman and one of the top rising French drivers of the day. There's no doubt about it. He wants to be in Formula One, and ooh, got right under the wheel again of Enger there. So Sébastien, no doubt, being really cheered on by the crowd. Now, of course,
look at Pantano.
He's got to look in the mirror now. He's really concentrating on the lead, but he's got to watch out for Pantano taking away that second spot. Enger locks him up going to the hairpin. Bourdais just stays in front of Pantano, but only just. Pantano goes down the inside. Bourdais not quite as brutal to him as Enger was to Bourdais a lap ago. Oh! We've seen this so many times, haven't we, this year from Pantano. He's always coming back from behind. He somehow gets behind, then he struggles like mightily to get back to the front. And he's very, very good at it too. Great overtaker.
Well, while we're watching this battle, there has been a change in the top six. Riccardo Sperafico has pitted, and Enrico Tocacello takes back the final points-paying position. Back in France, round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 Championship. Bob Barsha, David Hobbs with you, and Thomas Engi, the pole sitter and race leader in the red and white car, is having all sorts of trouble with the blue and yellow machine of Sébastien Bourdais of France. Just behind them, the red car from the Coloni team is Giorgio Pantano of Italy, and he wants a piece of this fight as well.
And he's right in there too. He's been giving Sébastien Bourdais support. So Bourdais really has got a problem on his hands. He wants to get around the leader, Enger, in the red car, but he's got another red car shadowing him closely, so he can't afford to make any mistake.
Interesting comparison of lines off that corner. Enga just squares it off and takes off, as did Pantano. Bourdais goes way wide over by the pit wall.
He's done it every time. He does get but look how he catches up here through Grand Curve and into Estoril. There's Mario Haberfeld coming under pressure now from Antonio Pizzonia.
Pizzonia's teammate Riccardo Sperafico pitted for a new nose on the car. He's back on track, but 15th, and he won't be a factor as we get into the late laps here.
And that's a pity for Riccardo Sperafico, because, Pantano locking him up at all ends of the car. Tries to go down the inside, obviously loses valuable momentum as they come out of the hairpin.
Now accelerating again, down to the 180. Down 4 gears. I think he found himself in the wrong gear. He saw him grab for the shift lever in the corner, which is not what you want to be doing.
Bourdais' entry into the 180 has not been great. He's lost time there going in. I think he tries to go in too quick and deep, and when it catches him out, he has to compromise on the way out.
There's Mario Haberfeld, who was up into third, spun it away, lost a position to Pantano, and he remains in fourth with Antonio Pizzonia all over him. Not seen there is the 6th and final points-paying position. That's Enrico Tocacello of Italy in the other Coloni. Haberfeld and Pizzonia using that wide line off of the Lycée corner. 5 laps to go. 4 to go next time under the flag stand.
Enger seems to go himself just a little bit of breathing room on this lap as they head down to the hairpin at about 180 miles an hour. And these 460 horsepower cars, Mario Haberfeld having a look down the inside of Giorgio Pantano. Obviously can't really do anything about it. Pantano tried to take a slightly different line to Bourdais there, but he was too far back to be able to do anything with it, really.
Taking a look at the running order. Enger, who brought the Ardent International team its first victory in the FIA Formula 3000 Championship earlier this year. In fact, it was a 1-2 with his teammate Bjorn Wertheim in Austria. Right now, he is in position to take his 3rd win of the year, matching the total of Sébastien Bourdais. We'll take a break and return to France. Late laps in France. 2nd place, Sébastien Bourdais taking his traditional wide line, certainly wider than that of the race leader, Thomas Enger. 3 laps remaining here in round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 Championship. Enger in the red and white of the Ardent International Lola, and Sébastien Bourdais in the blue and yellow, very reminiscent of the Renault colors in Formula 1. Oh, look at the line Enger takes.
Oh, that's interesting. That's down to that Gulf sort of sweep onto the straight. I would have thought that would have cost him a bit of time, but in fact Bourdais is right behind him as they go into the hairpin, but obviously Bourdais is too far back to be able to do anything about it. Pantano, Haberfeld, Pizzonia.
This is the top 5. Enrico Tococello remains in 6th place, but nowhere near the front-running 5. 2 laps to go next time under the flag stand.
That's a great look there at that 180 degree. We've seen it a lot from on board, and we've seen it from this angle, but we haven't seen it from that angle before, I don't think, and it just really demonstrates how difficult it is, and the approach is the difficult bit because you come out of that right-left sweep. This is Imola. That's where they sort of excavated a bit of elevation change there. Into this last right-hander, Chateau d'Eau. And down to the chicane and the Lycée.
Bourdais still appears to be struggling with the handling of his car. It's interesting, he and Enger seem to have polar opposite cars. One man's strength, very much the other man's weakness, but Bourdais just can't translate it into a pass.
No, he can't, and Enger's obviously seems to have got just a little bit more lateral grip there because he was on the blacktop coming out of that Lycée hairpin, and Bourdais was well over onto the sort of blue hatch marks right up to the pit wall.
So look at the top 5. All of these men in the top 6 in the championship. The order was Bourdais, Enger, Pantano, Rodrigo Sparaffico, the only odd man out as he continues his free fall after winning the season opener. But Pizzonia in 5th and Haberfeld in 6th. There's Haberfeld in the white Astromega car with the Brazilian flag on the side pods. In fact, Sparaffico won the season opener, finished 2nd in the 2nd race of the year at Imola, has not scored since. So Pizzonia and Haberfeld look to move up today.
Well, Bourdais moving in on our leader, Enger. Made up a lot of ground on that last lap, which is about to start the last lap. I think that's Riccardo Sparaffico, who's a lap down after having that nose change. This must be the white flag lap, I would imagine, the start of the last lap.
Yep. 16 more corners to a possible 3rd victory of the season for Thomas Enger. And assuming he wins and Sébastien Bourdais stays where he is right there in 2nd, then Enger will carve 4 more points off of Bourdais' championship lead, and it will be down to just 5 points with 4 races remaining.
Well, we've still got half a lap to go yet, but I think that Sebastian's chances of winning this are, to say the least, slim to none.
Enger gets off the corners really well.
He does get off the corner well.
Run down to 180.
The one thing that Sebastian doesn't want to do here, and even in spite of being in front of his home crowd, would dearly love to have won this race he certainly doesn't want to go and running into England and risk losing a whole bunch of those 6 points there, which he might do if he knocked himself out of second at this stage. All he's going to make sure is that Giorgio Pantano doesn't come sneaking down the inside and take 2 of those points away.
Chicane coming up. Then the Lycée corner and the checkered flag for Tomas Enge from the Czech Republic, picking up his 3rd victory of the year to go equal with the man in second, Sebastian Bourdais, and close within 5 points of the championship. There's David Sears, Sebastian Bourdais' team owner. And there is Tomas Enge. This is going to be a great battle for the 2002 FIA Formula 3000 Championship, right down to the last race. Saw the Arden International team walking away. They'll be headed toward Parc Fermé to welcome their conquering hero, Tomas Enge. He'll be there in a moment, and we'll be back. Stand by for more from Magny Cours in France. Welcome back to France. Round 8 of the FIA Formula 3000 Championship now in the books. There is the race winner for the 3rd time this year. Tomas Enge pulls into Parc Fermé.
There's his team owner, Christian Horner. So both these teams, the first and second in this race, both owned by British teams. There's Christian Horner, Tomas Enge's owner. And of course David Sears, who we already spoke about, is the owner of Sebastian Bourdais' car.
It's Giorgio Pantano in the red suit, congratulating the race winner. There's Bourdais doing likewise. Giorgio Pantano held on for 3rd place unofficially, followed by Mario Haberfeld, Antonio Pizzonia, and Enrico Toccacello. Go take the helmet off there, Thomas. Here's a look at the final results. 3rd victory of the year for Enge. Bourdais has 3 to his credit. Giorgio Pantano will need to get a victory if he's going to stay with those 2 in the run for the championship. Patrick Freisacher finishes just outside the points-paying positions, while Rodrigo Sperafico continues to fail to score points and falls further and further behind in the championship. Rob Nguyen continues his good work, finishing just outside the top 10.
And of course, poor old Ricardo Sperafico finishes right there at the end, having had to change his nose.
And then the cars out of the race. Derek Hill in that spectacular collision with Nicola Chiesa. In the championship, as I mentioned earlier, Bourdais' lead down to 5 over Enge, while Pantano desperately needs to score victories if he's to have any hope of the 2002 title.
Bjorn Werdheim, of course, had that great run in Brazil the first time, as did Rodrigo Sperafico. Neither of them have done much in the point-scoring situation since then.
Arden International came in with a 1-point lead over Supernova in the team's championship standings. With the victory today, they opened that out to 5 points. As you see, Nordic, last year's team champions, have yet to score a point in 2002. There is Tomas Enge on the podium.
Well done to Tomas Enge. The trophy presented to him by Mr. Gilles Fournet of PlayStation France.
Et c'est Monsieur Fournet, le patron, le PDG de PlayStation France, qui remet ce trophée à Tomas Enge.
English voice you heard on the PA was that of Bob Constanduros, who's been doing English language PA announce work for the Formula 1 World Championship and Formula 3000, which travels with the top level of worldwide motorsport.
And he was doing the Sports Car World Championship when I was driving it. So it just shows how long old Bob Constanduros has been around and still sounds just as young as he ever did, and always does a great job at these sort of things.
He must have been a very young man.
He must have been incredibly. He must have been a boy.
And the champagne flows and flies.
And once again, the champagne ceremony. Enge and Bourdais getting good at it. Well, Pantano as well. They've all been up there on the podium quite a bit thus far this year, as we're 2/3 of the way through the season. We'll begin the final third at the Hockenheim Ring, the newly remodeled Hockenheim Ring. Check out our coverage next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, with re-airs on Monday, the 20th of January. For David Hobbs, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll see you from the Hockenheim Ring next week. Until then, so long, everyone.